and welcome to another Lit Matters. The focus of this video is on Macbeth, obviously, and specifically the blood and violence and horror, and there's plenty of all three, as you know, in Macbeth. What I'm going to do in this video is take you through about 7 or 8 key quotations, some of the bloodiest and the most violent that Shakespeare came up with, and try and link it to some of the language devices on show, just in case one of them might come up in an extract question in an exam, or link them to some of the themes in the case you might need it for a more extended essay or extended exam response. Okay, so let's start then. Right, straight away we have ridiculous levels of blood and violence right from the start, before we've even met Macbeth. At this point he is this heroic, noble warrior on the battlefield that goes chopping people up left, right and centre, charging through the battlefield, or rather carving is the verb choice here, like a butcher, carving out his passage until he faces the slave MacDonald, and he don't shake hands with him, and he's not going to say goodbye mate until he's ripped him open. And this is his special move. This is very much Macbeth's kind of signature special move. He unseamed him from the nape to the chap, so he sticks his sword in his belly button, his navel, and then rips him open up to his chaps, which are his jaws. And so that verb choice there, the unseamed, like a seam in your jumper or your item of clothing, just rips open very, very easily once the ripping has begun. So there's some lovely verb choices there. This is, of course, we haven't met him yet. We're just hearing these blood-chilling, blood-curdling stories from the battlefield. But at this point, he's brave Macbeth, he's noble Macbeth, he's worthy Macbeth, and the violence is very simple here for Macbeth. It's for his country, it's for his king, it's honourable, and it's what expected of a man in these times. It's not political and premeditated as some of his later violence will be. So at this point, he's getting very much applauded for it. So, well done, Macbeth, you keep killing, you keep chopping everyone up, aren't you great? Yeah, he can't really handle it then when the violence later becomes slightly more political and strategic. There's also some lovely symmetries in this, and touches of foreshadowing. With the very last scene, the verb to carve out his passage, as in what a butcher would do, and that's his the sort of epitaph, the verdict on him by Malcolm in the very, very final scene. This dead butcher and his fiend-like queen, when he's reduced of all majesty and royalty and nobility, and he's just someone who chops people's up, and someone who's dead as well. So there's a nice bit of sort of symmetry there as well. Macbeth is busy here, chopping people's heads up, sticking them on the battlements as a warning to other would-be traitors. And then in the final scene too, it's his head on the battlements to be the gaze of the time, is the quotation. So there's a couple of lovely little bits of symmetry there, and ridiculously bloody image to start. This is him swinging his big weapon around, his brandished steel, and it's probably a chilly day in Scotland at this point. The battlefield, the early morning battlefield in Scotland, so maybe single figures centigrade, and body temperatures about 37 degrees centigrade. So his sword is smoking with all of this flesh it's been penetrating. Okay, so a nice bloody violent start. Right, next one then. On to Lady Macbeth, a scene of even more shocking violence, actually, on a number of levels. One, you've got this kind of half confession, this slightly cryptic confession from Lady Macbeth that she has given suck and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. So she has had a baby, and she's had breastfed this baby, apparently, and knows the tenderness of that exchange and that dynamic. But she says, I would, while it was smiling in my face. Oh, there's some lovely juxtapositions here between the innocence and the helplessness of this little baby, and the violence and the culpability of her, the adult, threatening to do this. While it was smiling in her face, plucked my nipple. So the sort of violent force with that choice of plucked. We'll come back to that when Macbeth needs to pluck out his eyes later on. Plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn as you have done to do this. Now there's a few things here. This is an image of maternity, so there's a juxtaposition as well with this image of motherhood and the nipple and the boneless gums. The boneless adjective emphasizes the youth and innocence. Doesn't even have teeth to even the slightest bit of defense or the slightest bit of menace that the baby's without that. And then the violence of that would have dashed the brains out. Not just removed the brains or slipped the brains out or thrown, but dashed. There's a force to it. So the number of juxtapositions there, and that hyperbole, that sort of exaggeration going on as well, as some lovely verb choices. There is a theory, by the way, that Lady Macbeth was never saying she would do this, and she's not saying this is what I would go around doing. She's trying to make the point to Macbeth that if I have sworn I'm going to do something, then I'm going to do it. And my word is my bond, and so forth. And even if it was something as bad as, and then comes up with the worst thing she can think of, she says, I still would do it if I'd sworn to do it. So you've got to keep your word. You're chicken, basically. But it's still a pretty brutal, violent thing to come out of anyone's mouth, whatever the context. Okay, number 3 then. Here is just after the murder, and poor old Macbeth starts to go to pieces almost immediately. Here's this, where's this knocking coming from? What's going on? And he said, what is it with me? Every noise appalls me. Every noise terrifies me now. And then there's immediate regret, immediate remorse. He's staring at his hands. More questions to add to that sense of insecurity and mystery and confusion at the start of Macbeth. What hands are here? They pluck out mine eyes. Perhaps a little reference there to Oedipus Rex, the protagonist in Sophocles' Greek tragedy of the same name, who... Go and look it up. You'll like this one. Proper Greek tragedy, incest, blood, murder on another level. Oedipus here's an oracle that he's going to kill his father and impregnate his mother, and his parents, when they hear this oracle as a baby, they send him up to the mountains to get rid of him and bolt his feet together. Oedipus means swollen foot, and then they leave him for dead. But a shepherd picks him up, takes him to another village. He lives, grows up, hears the oracle for himself, goes, oh no, that's all really bad, don't want to do that to my folks. They've been good to me, that wouldn't be right. So runs away, and then runs back to Thebes, where he didn't know he came from, gets in a bit of a road rage incident, kills King Laius, who's his dad, the man his dad, and then marches on to Thebes. And then there's the queen Jocasta, who's suddenly hubbyless, and then this new guy rocks up to Thebes, and she's all like, hey, you're young, you're pretty cool, you've solved the riddle of the Sphinx, do you want to get with me? And so he ends up marrying her and impregnating and having kids by her without realizing it's his mum. So the oracles come true. Anyway, when he finds out what he has done, in Tom Lehrer's words, he plucks his eyes out one by one. A tragic end to a loyal son who loved his mother. But that plucking out of his eyes to be associated with the most heinous crime, the most awful, disgusting violence. And then you've got this one of several images of Macbeth being basically swimming in blood. Neptune, of course, the Roman god of the sea, same as Poseidon in the Greeks' name for him. Will all of his ocean wash this blood from hand? No. More hyperbole. Actually, he sees his hands as turning the whole green seas into red. And Shakespeare coins this word incarnadine, carne meaning like flesh, as in carnivore, or chili con carne, chili with meat. And so he will turn the whole seas a flesh colour. And meanwhile, Lady Macbeth is pretty happy to go and cover the grooms' faces with blood. So plenty blood. On we go, Act 3, Scene 4. Just really, again, another levels of disgusting violence when Macbeth gets his best mate Banquo whacked. I use that term carefully. I don't use it in an exam essay, but there is an element of he's operating like a mafia don at this point, just whacking his rivals and his enemies and his old best friends now turned into his enemies. And the first murderer says, yeah, don't need to worry about him. He's in a ditch, and he's got a lovely description: 20 trenches, gashes on his head. That should say a D up there. Trenched. So these wounds, each as deep as a trench. Nice. And there's 20 of them, and the least or the smallest one would have killed him, would be a death to nature. But you've got this lovely sort of cacophony onomatopoeia of the 20 trench gashes, like the sound of the axe going in and out of the head. Chunk, 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 that Shakespeare's trying to create or recreate there. And then further on, the ghost of Banquo then appears, and Macbeth is hallucinating, seeing this blood-covered ghost, and he says, "You canst not say I did it. You don't shake your gory locks at me." So his hair is all covered in blood and matted, um, with this half clotting blood. Um, nice. Okay, that's all for part one. Click on the link for the rest of it in part two.
Pressure.